Alright guys, welcome back to another episode of my breakdowns I do here on the channel. I'm going to talk about Mercer today, as you can see from the title of the video. I wanted to do this mainly because there's two things I want to address. One, like Nick Saban, I never like to underestimate any opponent. I like to know about everybody. I like to see what they have and what they know, and to bring that to you all so you can be aware and so you can be on the lookout for things to look for in the game, keys to the game. Even with a Division II school like Mercer, who's from the Southern Conference, by the way, which has teams such as Wofford and Sanford and the Citadel, which is why you see a lot of the SEC teams, when they do schedule a Division II team, a lot of times you'll see it will be from the Southern Conference because that's close to our area. That will support the local universities, and they get a lot of money for it, which is one of the reasons why we do this game. So one of the first things I want to address is Saban's comments on Division II games in general, because a lot of people like to talk about Alabama's schedule as if Alabama's the only team that will schedule a Division II team. By the way, that's not true. Other teams do it too, not just the SEC either. I mean, I've seen it all over the place. ACC, Big 10, Big 12. I've seen Division II teams. Now, Saban's thoughts completely are, and I'm reading this from his interview and from things he said in the past, Nick Saban himself believes all SEC teams should play 9 or 10 conference games. I think the Pac-12 does that, so that's something really commendable from the Pac-12. So I believe the SEC should play more conference games too. That way you will see Alabama play more teams from the SEC East every year. I would love to see Alabama versus Georgia more often, or Alabama versus Florida more often, or Alabama versus South Carolina. Those would be really good to see. But we don't have 9 or 10 conference games, and some of the coaches don't agree with that, and I'll go into that a little bit later. But Nick Saban also believes further that all Power 5 teams should only play Football Bowl subdivision team, which is Division I. He believes all Power 5 teams should only play Division I football teams. And by further distinction, even more, Power 5 teams should only play Power 5 opponents, if possible. Now, that is extremely hard, and that's what Nick Saban's advocating for. Nick Saban wouldn't want these teams, but the thing is, the SEC and other Power 5 conferences do not agree with this. They want easy wins to get to bowl eligibility. And not, I want to consider easier wins, but also it's kind of like break games a little bit, or basically not making it so hard to get to a bowl game. This is better for the fans. They're trying to make more money. That's what they're thinking about. Those are the conferences they're thinking about. They're not always thinking about what's the best possible game for the fan. They're like, how can we get more fans in seats, get to bowl games, get more fans excited about the program. That's what they're thinking about. Not realizing, though, that playing more Power 5 games would actually be beneficial to achieving that goal, which is that's an unfortunate side effect of that. So Nick Saban actually advocates for having the hardest schedule, which is really interesting. I mean, I'm pretty sure Alabama would beat most teams. And a lot of teams are actually, and one thing people don't do is that a lot of teams are actually scared to play Alabama. Nick Saban in Alabama tries to get people to play, and they won't do it. So that's also something I want to think about. And also, and one of the more important aspects of all of this, when the big-time schools play Division II schools, it's a massive payday for that small-time school, which doesn't have a big athletic budget. So these games bring value to the smaller program. Like just Mercer. Mercer has played now Auburn and Alabama. So I did a little bit of analysis on that Auburn matchup, but based on just those two games, Mercer alone has $1 million added to their athletic program because they played both Alabama and Auburn. I think they got about $600,000 from Alabama, $400,000 from Auburn, or something like that. So that's not bad. That's really good. That helps their program move along, get equipment, make sure they're up to date. That's a good trade-off. So I'm not mad at that. With that said, let's dive into Mercer. So Mercer's from the Southern Conference, like I said, the Division II. They have a 5-5 record. Now, although they have a 5-5 record, they're not as bad as team as people would like to say. They're well coached, like Nick Saban said. Despite the record, they actually played Auburn earlier in the year really tough. They lost by 2 touchdowns. It was a 24-10 loss, so it was actually, they played a rough game down there. And although I will say this was an outlier, as they have played kind of inconsistently across the season. It's been a little weird. I guess the players are adjusting to learning how to play well every week. But last year, even then, they played their Power 5 opponent pretty well. They lost to Georgia Tech 35-10, which is by no means a humongous. You can see Georgia Tech beating a conference foe like that. And so to only beat a Division II team by 25 points, That shows you that these teams, there is a gap there, but that doesn't mean they can't play. As we see, they upset people all the time. Not Mercer in particular, but just Division II teams. Now, with that said, in the FCS, which is the Football Championship Subdivision, which is Division II, Mercer is actually #1 in the FCS in red zone offense. So they get points in offense better than everybody else. Get more points in the red zone than anybody else in Division II football. They also have the number 27 scoring defense, so it's not great defense of keeping people off the board, but it's like good enough defense in keeping people off the board. So that is something to keep in mind. Mercer's defense, they do run a 3-4 defense for sure. Their right end, number 41, Isaiah Buckler, he is the guy to look out for. He was all Southern Conference second team last year, and so he's the guy you look for if you're looking for their defense to make a play. Now, some things to get into regarding, well, I'll say that later. Their quarterback, his name is Kalen Riley. He's a true freshman, or a redshirt freshman. I believe he's a true freshman out of Georgia. He's 6'3", 222 pounds. He's a dual threat quarterback. They need that because they play in a spread offense. 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end starts usually. But they easily go into 4 or 5 wide receiver sets a lot. He can move a little bit. He can throw. He's a little consistent. Sometimes I would say a majority of the throws are at or behind the line of scrimmage. Do a lot of screen passes, flip out the flares, the flat, and the fullbacks and running backs and the wide receiver screens. They do a lot of that stuff. They try to get him moving. They try to get the pocket moving against like teams with, stronger defensive lines. Typical spread offense type things. Based on what I've seen from the Auburn game, they like to play a lot of nickel against, against the teams that like to put more receivers on the field and have their outside linebacker guy in the nickel formation stand up to maybe rush the pass a little bit. But what I noticed overall, though, is that their D-line can be blocked one-on-one. It's not as athletic. They don't have all these 5-star guys coming in. They're like kind of like squatty, more stout guys. Not even more stout. They don't look like the athletic specimens that are like an Alabama team. Their main receiver seems to be the go-to guy is Marquise Irvin. He's number 8, so if you're looking for a guy on offense to stand out, it would be him and their quarterback also as well. Against Auburn, against Auburn, they threw a lot of short passes to avoid the front because they couldn't really block these guys. So their offensive line really is not as athletic as well, although they're coached well, so they do their job. They also, against Auburn, which is weird enough because their wide receivers aren't that great, they were content to rush only 3 guys and just play coverage, trying not to get beat over the top, trying not to give up humongous plays. So you'll probably see them to try to repeat that against Alabama. They don't seem to have a lot of team speed, but they aren't terribly slow, I should say. They seem about above average in speed and whatnot. But that's just the difference in what I see between watching them and watching other Division I teams. So when I break down this Mercer team, I don't see them, being like a huge problem for Alabama or even a problem at all. They may have a play here or there, but like everyone else, I'm expecting Alabama to win this game and get a pretty handed victory. Like put Tua in, get the backups in the second half, and get some experience. That's something that I'm expecting out of this game. I think you should too. But just to say, you need to be aware of these guys. Their running back also, T. Mitchell, he's their go-to runner. So if you want to have a breakdown of the names, it's Kalen Riley, Isaiah Buckler, Marquise Irvin, and T. Mitchell as the running back. Those are probably the guys you want to be aware of for the Mercer team. Now, here's some Alabama things to keep ahead of. I've heard some inklings here and there. I don't know if it's true yet. I have to find out. But LeBron Ray may have broken his foot in practice just the other day. So he actually may be out, the true freshman defensive lineman, which would be another hit to the front 7 of Alabama. But Ross Pierce-Baker, he will not play in this game. The starting left guard, J.C. Hassanar, will be playing again. Henry Ruggs also, I heard he may be hurt a bit, but we'll see if that impacts how he plays. Dylan Moses in practice this week, they've been saying he's been getting a lot more reps, sometimes ahead of Keith Holcomb in the practice situation. So we may see Dylan Moses start in front of Keith Holcomb this week after the performance from last week. So that is something to keep an eye on. But I'm not underestimating Mercer, and Alabama's players are not underestimating Mercer either because they see what happened to Auburn. Mercer played Auburn really, really well, and it was tough. But that was a fourth quarter game. That was a one-score game until Auburn put it away close toward the end. So Alabama's players probably going to look to come out, jump out fast, and just keep the engine rolling and get a big victory. I personally am expecting it to be somewhere around like 48, 45 to 3. They could possibly get a touchdown, but I think, and with the backups coming in, it could be likely that they get one late. But those guys could be just as motivated. And you never know how the true freshmen like Dylan Moses and Keith Holcomb, maybe Holcomb's not a freshman, but we'll see how he responds this week. How they play on defense could give up something here or there. But I'm definitely expecting a big victory. With that said, that's all I have to say for my preview here for the Mercer Alabama game. I'm already starting some breakdowns for Auburn's matchups against other opponents like LSU and Georgia, so I can have an idea of what to expect when Alabama plays. So I'm going to try to get that preview out for them in the upcoming week before the game, obviously. And then I'll see you then. Talk to me in the comment section.